The space station was busy that morning. Thousands of beings from hundreds of different worlds walked through the long metal hallways. Some had scales, some had fur, some had skin colors that humans could not even name. The air smelled strange, like a mix of flowers and metal, and something sweet that Yuna could not identify. Yuna Kim walked slowly through the crowd. She was a small woman with black hair tied in a simple ponytail. Her clothes were plain, a gray jacket and dark pants that many human travelers wore. She carried a large bag over her shoulder. The bag was heavier than it looked, and she held it close to her body. She was trying very hard to look normal. She was trying very hard not to look scared. The Galactic Transit Station was the biggest checkpoint between the outer colonies and the inner Federation worlds. Every ship that wanted to enter Federation space had to stop here first. Every passenger had to pass through security. The Federation did not trust easily, and they trusted humans least of all. Humans had only joined the galactic community 15 years ago. They were still newcomers. They were still outsiders. Many alien species looked at humans with cold eyes and suspicious thoughts. Humans were strange to them. Humans were unpredictable. Humans felt emotions too strongly and made decisions too quickly. Yuna knew all of this. She had lived with this truth her whole adult life. She had learned to keep her head down and follow the rules. She had learned to smile politely and never argue. She had learned that being human in this galaxy meant being careful every single day. But today she was breaking the biggest rule of all. The security checkpoint was ahead. Yuna could see the officers standing behind their scanning machines. Most of them were Vricks, tall reptilian beings with green scales and yellow eyes. The Vricks were known for their cold logic and their strict love of rules. They made perfect security officers. They never let emotions affect their judgment. They never showed mercy to rule breakers. Yuna's heart beat faster. She could feel sweat forming on her forehead. Inside her bag, hidden under a thick blanket, something moved slightly. She pressed the bag tighter against her side. "Stay still," she whispered. "Please stay still." There was no answer from the bag, but the movement stopped. Yuna joined the line of travelers waiting for security check. The line moved slowly. Each person had to show their identification, answer questions, and allow their bags to be scanned. Sometimes the officers opened bags and searched through them by hand. Yuna watched this happen to a furry being 3 spots ahead of her. The officers pulled out every item and examined each one carefully. Her stomach felt sick. She thought about turning around. She thought about running back to her ship and flying away. But she knew that would only make things worse. Running would make her look guilty. Running would bring attention. And in this galaxy, attention was dangerous for humans. So she stayed in line. She waited. She tried to breathe normally. The line moved forward, one person checked, then another, then another. Now there were only 2 beings ahead of her. Yuna looked at the officer who would check her. He was a large Vrix with dark green scales and a scar across his face. His yellow eyes were cold and sharp. He wore the gray uniform of Federation security, and a scanner hung from his belt. His name tag said Officer Krell. Officer Krell did not look like someone who would show kindness to a nervous human woman. One more person ahead of her now. Yuna thought about how she had ended up here. 3 months ago, she had been working on Station Orion 7, a small mining outpost far from Federation space. Life there was hard but simple. She repaired machines and equipment. She earned enough money to survive. She did not cause trouble. Then she had found him. She had been walking through a dark storage area when she heard the sound. It was a small sound, like a baby crying. She had followed the sound and found a metal crate hidden behind old equipment. Inside the crate, wrapped in dirty cloth, was a small creature. He was a Falari cub. The Falari were a rare species. They looked like cats but walked on 2 legs and had hands like humans. Their fur came in many colors: gold, silver, black, white. They were known throughout the galaxy for their beauty and their intelligence. They were also protected by the strictest laws in the Federation. Hunting them was forbidden. Capturing them was forbidden. Even touching one without permission was a serious crime. And yet someone had left this cub alone in a dark storage room. He was thin and weak. His golden fur was dirty and matted. His eyes were barely open. He was dying. Yuna could not leave him there. She knew it was illegal to take him. She knew that helping him could send her to prison for many years. But when she looked at his small face and heard his weak cries, she could not walk away. Something inside her heart would not let her leave him to die. So she took him. She hid him in her room. She fed him warm milk and soft food. She cleaned his fur and kept him warm. Night after night, she sat beside him and talked to him softly, even though he could not understand her words. Slowly, he grew stronger. His eyes became bright and curious. His fur became soft and shiny. He started to walk, then to run, then to play. He started to make sounds that almost sounded like words. And he started to follow Yuna everywhere. At first, she thought he was just grateful for the food. Then she thought he was lonely and wanted company. But as weeks passed, she noticed something strange. The cub would cry when she left the room. He would refuse to eat if she was not there. He would sleep only when he could touch her hand or rest against her body. She asked the station's computer about Filari behavior. What she learned changed everything. Filari cubs imprinted on one person in their lifetime. It was not a choice. It was not something that could be controlled. When a Filari cub found someone whose smell and presence felt right, they bonded with that person forever. The bond was deep and powerful. Breaking it could kill the cub. This small golden creature had chosen her. He had decided that she was his person, and now their lives were connected in a way that nothing could break. Yuna had tried to find his family. She had searched records and asked questions carefully, but she found nothing. The cub had no family. He had no home. He had only her. So when her work contract ended and she had to leave Station Orion 7, she made a choice. She would take him with her. She would keep him safe. She would find a place where they could live together without fear. That place was supposed to be the planet Hana, a human colony in the Inner Federation. But first, she had to pass through this checkpoint. Next, Officer Krell said in his cold, rough voice. Yuna stepped forward. Her legs felt weak. The bag felt heavier than ever. Officer Krell looked at her with his yellow eyes. She could see no warmth in them, no kindness, only cold duty. Identification, he said. Yuna handed over her card with shaking fingers. The officer scanned it and looked at his screen. Human, he said. It was not a question. It was a statement and not a friendly one. Yes, sir, Yuna said quietly. Purpose of travel? I am going to Hana Colony. For work. Officer Krell looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked at her bag. What is in the bag? He asked. Yuna's heart stopped. Yuna's mouth went dry. She could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. It sounded loud. Too loud. She was sure Officer Krell could hear it too. Clothes, she said. Her voice came out thin and weak. Just clothes and personal things. Officer Krell did not look convinced. His yellow eyes moved from her face to the bag and back again. Something in his expression told Yuna that he had seen many liars in his life. He knew when someone was hiding something. Put the bag on the table, he ordered. Yuna did not move. She could not move. Her arms felt frozen. Inside the bag, she felt a small movement. The cub was waking up. Yeah, he had been sleeping through most of the journey, but now he was starting to stir. Put the bag on the table, Officer Krell repeated. His voice was harder now. I will not ask again. Slowly, with hands that shook badly, Yuna lifted the bag from her shoulder. She placed it on the metal table between them. The bag made a soft sound when it touched the surface. Yuna prayed that Officer Krell had not noticed. He had noticed. His eyes narrowed. One of his clawed hands reached for the bag. Yuna wanted to scream. She wanted to grab the bag and run. But she stood still, frozen like a statue, watching as the officer's green fingers touched the fabric. She remembered the night she had decided to take the cub with her. It had been a cold night on the Station Orion 7. The heating systems were old and broken, and her small room was freezing. She had wrapped herself in blankets and tried to sleep, but the cub would not sleep. He sat beside her bed looking at her with his big golden eyes. He made small crying sounds that broke her heart. When she reached down to touch his head, he grabbed her hand with his tiny paws and would not let go. She had pulled him up onto the bed. He had crawled under the blankets and pressed his small body against hers. Within minutes, he was asleep, purring softly. His warmth spread through her cold body. For the first time in years, Yuna did not feel alone. That was the night she knew she could not leave him behind. She had planned the journey carefully. She had saved money to buy passage on a transport ship. She had researched the laws and the checkpoints. She had prepared a special bag with a hidden space at the bottom. The space was lined with material that blocked scanner signals. She had paid a lot of money for that bag, but she had not planned for Officer Krell. The officer opened the top of the bag. He looked inside. Yuna had packed clothes on top, just as she had said. Shirts and pants and a jacket were folded neatly. Officer Krell pushed them aside with his clawed hand. Under the clothes was a blanket, a thick, soft blanket in a deep blue color. Yuna had bought it specially for the cub. He loved soft things. He would wrap himself in the blanket and sleep for hours. Right now, he was hidden under that blanket, and he was starting to move. Officer Krell saw the blanket. He saw that something was under it. His hand moved toward it. Time seemed to slow down. Yuna watched the green-clawed fingers reaching into her bag. She watched them touch the edge of the blanket. She watched them start to pull it aside. She thought about what would happen next. The officer would find the cub. He would call for more security. They would take the cub away from her. They would put her in prison. She would never see him again. And the cub, what would happen to him? Without her, without his bonded person, he would get sick. He would stop eating. He would lose the will to live. The computers had told her this very clearly. A Filari cub separated from their bonded person usually died within weeks. She could not let that happen. "Wait," Yuna said suddenly. "Please wait." Officer Krell stopped. He looked at her with cold curiosity. "You have something to tell me?" he asked. Yuna's mind raced. She needed to say something. She needed to explain. But what could she say? There was no good explanation. There was no excuse that would make this acceptable. She had broken the law. She was smuggling a protected species. Nothing she said would change that fact. She began, but no words came out. Officer Krell waited for a moment. Then he shook his head slightly. "Humans," he said in a low voice. "Always so nervous. Always hiding something." His hand went back to the blanket. This time he did not hesitate. He grabbed the fabric and pulled. The blanket came away, and there, curled up in the bottom of the bag, was the cub. He was beautiful. His fur was the color of gold, bright and shining even in the harsh station lights. His ears were small and pointed. His tail was long and fluffy. He was about the size of a human baby, with hands that had tiny claws and feet that looked made for climbing. His eyes were closed. He was still half asleep. Officer Krell stared at the cub. His yellow eyes went wide. For a moment, he did not move or speak. Then his face changed. His expression, which had been cold and hard, became something else. Something darker. Something angry. "A Filari," he said. His voice was quiet but full of danger. "You are smuggling a Filari." "Please," Yuna said. Tears were forming in her eyes. "Please, I can explain." "There is no explanation," Officer Krell cut her off. "You have committed a serious crime. Do you understand what this means? Smuggling a protected species? You will spend the rest of your life in a Federation prison." The cub stirred. The loud voice had woken him fully now. His golden eyes opened. He looked around in confusion. He saw the strange place, the strange being standing over him, and his body tensed with fear. Then he saw Yuna. His eyes found her face, and his body relaxed slightly. But only slightly. He could sense her fear. He could feel that something was very wrong. "Come with me," Officer Krell said to Yuna. He reached into the bag to grab the cub. "This animal will be taken to proper authorities. You will be detained for—" His clawed hand wrapped around the cub's small body, and the cub moved. It happened so fast that Yuna almost missed it. One moment, Officer Krell was lifting the cub out of the bag. The next moment, the cub had twisted in his grip and sunk his tiny teeth into the officer's hand. Officer Krell roared in pain. He dropped the cub back into the bag. Green blood dripped from his hand where the small but sharp teeth had broken his scales. The cub scrambled out of the bag on his own. But he did not run away. Instead, he jumped onto the table and stood between Yuna and Officer Krell. His golden fur stood up. His tiny claws were out. His teeth were bared. And then he spoke. "Back off," the cub said. His voice was small and high, like a child's voice. His words were rough and unclear, but everyone could understand them. "Back off! This one smells like my person." The entire checkpoint went silent. Everyone stopped moving. Everyone stopped talking. Hundreds of beings from dozens of species stood frozen, staring at the small golden creature standing on the security table. Officer Krell stared too. His injured hand hung at his side, forgotten. His yellow eyes were fixed on the cub, with an expression Una had never seen on a Vrick's face before. It looked almost like shock. "What did you say?" Officer Krell asked quietly. The cub did not back down. He stood tall on his small legs, his golden eyes burning with fierce determination. For something so tiny, he looked incredibly brave. "My person," the cub repeated. He pointed one small paw at Una. "She is my person. You cannot take her. You cannot hurt her. I will not allow it." Officer Krell looked at the cub. Then he looked at Una. Then he looked back at the cub. Something had changed. Una could see it in his eyes. The anger was still there. But there was something else now. Something that looked almost like uncertainty. "This is not possible," Officer Krell said slowly. "Filari imprint on their own kind. They do not imprint on other species, especially not on humans." The cub's golden eyes never left the officer's face. "She found me," the cub said. "She saved me. She kept me warm. She fed me. She talked to me when I was scared. She is my person. I choose her." Una felt tears running down her face. She had never heard the cub speak so many words before. She had not even known he could speak so clearly. All this time he had been learning, growing, understanding. And now in this moment of danger, he was fighting for her. "Please," she said again. But this time her voice was stronger. "Please, just listen to him. I did not steal him. I found him abandoned and dying. I saved his life. And he chose me. I did not ask for this. I did not plan for this. But it happened. And now I cannot leave him. If you take him from me, he will die. Is that what you want? Is that what your laws are for?" Officer Krell did not answer immediately. He stood very still, his yellow eyes moving between the crying human woman and the small golden cub who stood ready to fight the entire galaxy for her. For a long moment, no one moved. The whole checkpoint held its breath. Then Officer Krell did something unexpected. He turned and spoke into his communication device. "Commander," he said, "we have a situation at Checkpoint 7. I need you here immediately." The minutes that followed felt like hours to Una. She stood behind the security table, not daring to move. The cub remained on the table, still standing between her and Officer Krell. His small body was tense, ready to attack again if needed. His golden eyes watched every movement around them. Other travelers had moved back, creating a wide circle around the checkpoint. Some watched with curiosity. Some watched with fear. A few recorded the scene with their devices. Una saw a group of Vrick's officers gathering nearby, their hands on their weapons. She thought about running. She thought about grabbing the cub and trying to escape into the crowd. But she knew it was hopeless. The station was locked down. There was nowhere to go. Even if she could escape the checkpoint, she would be caught within minutes. So she waited, and she prayed. The cub looked back at her. His golden eyes met hers. In that moment, despite everything, Una felt a strange peace. Whatever happened next, she was not alone. This small creature, this tiny being that she had saved from death, was willing to fight for her. He was willing to face an entire galaxy of enemies just to stay by her side. She reached out and touched his head gently. His fur was soft under her fingers. He pressed against her hand and made a small sound, almost like a purr. "It will be okay," she whispered to him. She did not know if it was true, but she wanted him to hear it anyway. The crowd parted suddenly. A new figure walked toward the checkpoint with long, heavy steps. Una looked up and felt her heart sink even further. The commander was of Vrix, like Officer Krell, but much larger. His scales were a dark green, almost black, and they were covered with old scars from many battles. His eyes were the same cold yellow as all Vrix, but there was something in them that made Yuna's blood turn cold. This was not someone who would show mercy. This was not someone who cared about small creatures or scared human women. Behind the commander, Yuna noticed another figure. This one was human, a tall man with neat black hair and a formal suit. He carried himself with confidence and authority. A badge on his chest identified him as a diplomat from the Human Federation office. Hope flickered in Yuna's chest. A human diplomat, someone who might help her, someone who might understand. The commander stopped at the checkpoint and looked at the scene before him. His eyes moved from Officer Krell's bleeding hand to the small golden cub standing on the table to Yuna's tear-stained face. "Report," he said. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. Officer Krell stood straight. "Commander Voss, this human female was attempting to smuggle a Filari cub through the checkpoint. When I tried to take the animal into custody, it attacked me and declared that the human is its person." Commander Voss's eyes narrowed. "Its person?" "Yes, Commander. The animal claims to have imprinted on the human." A murmur went through the crowd. Yuna saw beings of many species whispering to each other, pointing at her and the cub. The word imprint seemed to mean something important to all of them. Commander Voss stepped closer to the table. He looked down at the cub with an unreadable expression. The cub did not back away. He stood his ground, his golden fur still raised, his tiny claws still out. "Is this true, small one?" Commander Voss asked. His voice was quieter now, but no less dangerous. "You have imprinted on this human?" The cub nodded firmly. "Yes, she is my person. She saved my life. I belong to her now. You cannot separate us." "Cannot," Commander Voss repeated. One of his scales ridges rose, which might have been his version of raising an eyebrow. "I am the commander of this station. I can do whatever I want." The cub did not flinch. "Then you will have to kill me first," Yuna gasped. She grabbed the cub and pulled him against her chest, wrapping her arms around him protectively. "No," she said, her voice shaking but determined. "No, please. He is just a child. He does not know what he is saying. Please punish me if you must, but do not hurt him. He has done nothing wrong." Commander Voss watched her. His cold yellow eyes studied the way she held the cub, the way her body curved around his to protect him. Something flickered in those ancient eyes. Something Yuna could not identify. The human diplomat stepped forward. "Commander, if I may?" Commander Voss turned his head slightly. "Human diplomat, Taiho Park, yes? What business does the Human Federation office have with this matter?" Taiho Park bowed his head respectfully. He was maybe 40 years old, with a calm face and intelligent eyes. When he spoke, his voice was steady and careful. "Commander, this matter involves a human citizen. As a representative of the Human Federation office, I have the right to be present during any legal proceedings involving humans." "This is not a legal proceeding," Commander Voss said. "This is a security matter. With respect, Commander, it became a legal matter the moment you were called. If you intend to arrest this woman, she has rights under Federation law. I am here to ensure those rights are protected." Commander Voss made a low sound in his throat. It might have been annoyance. It might have been something else. "Very well," he said. "You may observe, but do not interfere." Taiho Park nodded and stepped back. But before he did, his eyes met Yuna's. He gave her the smallest nod, a tiny movement that no one else seemed to notice. It said, "I am here. I will help if I can." Yuna felt some of the fear in her chest loosen slightly. Commander Voss turned back to her. "Human, you are accused of smuggling a protected species. This is a serious crime. The penalty is 20 years in a Federation prison. Do you understand?" Yuna nodded. Her throat was too tight to speak. "However," Commander Voss continued, "there is another matter to consider. The Filari imprint bond is sacred. It is recognized by the oldest laws of the Federation, laws that were written before my species or yours even knew the stars existed." He paused. The entire checkpoint seemed to lean forward, waiting for his next words. "If the cub has truly imprinted on you, then you are bonded, and a bonded pair cannot be separated by any authority in the Federation, not even me." Hope exploded in Yuna's chest like a star going supernova, but Commander Voss held up one clawed hand. "However," he said again, and the hope died as quickly as it had been born. Filari have never imprinted on other species before. Many believe it is not possible, that the cub is confused, that this is not a true bond. It is true, the cub said fiercely. He struggled in Yuna's arms, trying to face the commander. I am not confused. I know what I feel. She is my person. The bond is real. Commander Voss looked at him for a long moment. Words are easy, small one. Anyone can say anything. How do we know you speak the truth? The cub went still. Yuna could feel his small heart beating fast against her chest. He was scared. He was just a child, facing a powerful being who could decide their fates with a single word. But he did not back down. Test me, the cub said. There must be a way to test the bond. If there is, I will take the test. I will prove that what I say is true. More whispers from the crowd. Commander Voss's eyes widened slightly, the first real emotion Yuna had seen on his face. You would submit to the bond test? He asked. You know what that involves? You know it is painful? I know, the cub said. His voice was steady. I do not care. I will do whatever it takes to stay with my person. Yuna pulled him closer. No, no, I will not let them hurt you. There must be another way. There is no other way, Taeho Park said quietly. He had stepped forward again. Miss Kim, I know this is frightening, but the cub is right. The bond test is the only way to prove that the imprint is real. Without it, Commander Voss will have no choice but to separate you. But you said it is painful. It is, Taeho Park admitted, but it is not dangerous. And if the bond is real, as you both say it is, then the test will prove it. Then no one in the galaxy will be able to take him from you. Not the Federation, not the Vrix, no one. Yuna looked down at the cub. He looked back up at her with his golden eyes full of trust and determination. Let me do this, he said softly. For us, for our future. I am not afraid. Tears fell from Yuna's eyes. She held him tight and pressed her face against his soft fur. I am afraid, she whispered. I am so afraid of losing you. You will not lose me, the cub said. I promise. You are my person. Nothing will change that. Nothing ever could. Yuna stayed like that for a long moment, holding him close. Then slowly she lifted her head and looked at Commander Voss. Fine, she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. Do the test. Prove that our bond is real. Commander Voss nodded slowly. For just a moment, Yuna thought she saw something like respect in his cold yellow eyes. Very well, he said. Prepare the testing chamber. We will see the truth of this bond. The testing chamber was deep inside the space station, far from the busy checkpoints and crowded hallways. Yuna walked through long metal corridors, surrounded by Vrix guards. The cub was still in her arms. She refused to let anyone else carry him. She refused to let him go for even a moment. Taeho Park walked beside her. He explained what was about to happen in a quiet, calm voice. The bond test was created thousands of years ago, he said. When the Filari first joined the galactic community, there were problems. Some beings tried to fake the imprint bond. They wanted to control Filari for their beauty or their intelligence. The Filari Council created the test to stop this. How does it work? Yuna asked. Her voice sounded strange in the empty corridor. The test separates the bonded pair, Taeho Park explained. Not physically, but mentally. It uses special technology to block the connection between them. If the bond is fake, nothing happens. But if the bond is real, he paused. What? Yuna asked. What happens if the bond is real? Both parties feel pain, Taeho Park said gently. Deep pain. The bond is part of their minds, part of their souls. Blocking it feels like losing a piece of yourself. The test only lasts for a few minutes, but those minutes will feel very long. Yuna looked down at the cub. He was listening to everything. His golden eyes were serious. Are you sure you want to do this? She asked him softly. Yes, he said without hesitation. A few minutes of pain is nothing. I would suffer for years if it meant staying with you. Yuna felt her heart break and heal at the same time. This small creature loved her so completely, so purely. She did not feel worthy of such love, but she was grateful for it, more grateful than words could ever say. The corridor ended at a large metal door. Commander Voss was already there, waiting with several other officers. Among them was a new being that Yuna had not seen before, a tall, slender figure with silver fur and pale blue eyes. Another Filari, an adult. This Filari was elegant and beautiful, dressed in flowing robes of white and gold. She looked at Yuna with an expression that was hard to read. Then her eyes moved to the cub, and they softened slightly. "I am Elder Mira," she said. Her voice was like music, soft and sweet. "I represent the Filari Council at this station. I have been called to witness the bond test." The cub stiffened in Yuna's arms. Elder Mira noticed and smiled sadly. "Do not fear, little one," she said. "I am not here to judge you. I am here to see the truth, whatever that truth may be." Commander Voss stepped forward. "The test will begin now. Human, you will enter the chamber and stand in the marked circle. The cub will be placed in the opposite circle. The blocking field will activate for exactly 3 minutes. When those 3 minutes end, we will see the results." Yuna nodded. Her whole body was shaking, but she forced herself to walk forward. The chamber was round and empty, with smooth metal walls. 2 circles were drawn on the floor, about 10 meters apart. They glowed with soft blue light. Yuna walked to one circle and stopped. A guard took the cub from her arms. She did not want to let go, but she knew she had to, and carried him to the other circle. The cub looked across the distance at her. He looked so small, so alone, but his golden eyes were brave. "I love you," he said. His voice echoed in the empty chamber. Yuna felt tears streaming down her face. "I love you too." Commander Voss's voice came through a speaker in the ceiling. "The test begins now." The blue circles flashed brightly, then everything changed. At first, Yuna felt nothing. The chamber looked the same. The cub was still standing in his circle, still looking at her. Nothing seemed different. Then the emptiness hit her. It started as a small feeling, like something was missing, like she had forgotten something important. But it grew quickly. Within seconds, it became a hole in her chest, a deep, dark hole that swallowed everything. Her thoughts, her feelings, her sense of self. She gasped and fell to her knees. The emptiness was so big, so terrible. She felt like she was disappearing, like she was becoming nothing. Across the chamber, the cub screamed. It was a terrible sound, full of pain and fear. He fell to the floor of his circle, his small body shaking violently. His golden eyes were wide and wild, looking for something he could not find. "Make it stop," he cried. "I cannot feel her. Where is she? Where is my person?" Yuna tried to stand. She tried to go to him, but her legs would not work. Her body would not move. She could only watch as the cub suffered. "I am here," she tried to say, but her voice was barely a whisper. "I am right here." He could not hear her. The bond was blocked. The connection between them was gone. They were 2 separate beings, alone in their circles of pain. The minutes felt like years. Yuna lost track of time. She lost track of everything. There was only the emptiness, the terrible feeling of being incomplete. She had not known how much the cub had become part of her. She had not understood how deeply their bond went. Now, with that bond blocked, she understood. He was not just a creature she had saved. He was not just a companion or a friend. He was part of her heart, part of her soul. Without him, she was not whole. In his circle, the cub had stopped screaming. He lay on the floor, curled into a tiny ball, shaking and crying. His golden fur was dull. His eyes were closed. He looked like he was dying. Maybe he was. "Please," Yuna whispered to whoever was watching. "Please stop. Please, I cannot watch him suffer. I do not care about the test. I do not care about proving anything. Just stop his pain. Please." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the blue lights flickered and died. The emptiness disappeared. It happened instantly. One moment, Yuna was drowning in darkness. The next moment, she was whole again. The bond was back. The connection was restored. She could feel the cub again, feel his presence in her heart like a warm light. She stumbled to her feet and ran across the chamber. She fell to her knees beside the cub and gathered him into her arms. He was still shaking, still crying, but he reached for her with his small paws and held on tight. "I felt you come back," he whispered. "I felt you. You are still there. You are still my person." "Always," Yuna said. She was crying too. tears falling onto his golden fur. Always, always, always. They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other on the floor of the testing chamber. Yuna did not care who was watching. She did not care what anyone thought. She only cared about the small, warm body in her arms and the bond between them that nothing could break. Finally, a voice spoke from the doorway. The test is complete. Yuna looked up. Elder Mira stood there, her silver fur glowing in the soft light. Her pale blue eyes were wet with tears. I have never seen anything like this, Elder Mira said quietly. The readings were clear. The bond is real, more than real. It is one of the strongest imprint bonds I have ever witnessed. Commander Voss stepped into the chamber behind her. His face was still cold and hard, but something had changed in his eyes. Something that looked almost like respect. The human and the cub are truly bonded? He asked. Yes, Elder Mira said. There can be no doubt. The cub has imprinted on the human female. Their souls are connected. To separate them would be to kill them both. Yuna felt the cub relax in her arms. She felt his small heart beating against hers, steady and strong. Then the ancient laws apply, Commander Voss said. It was not a question. Yes, Elder Mira confirmed. The ancient laws apply. The bonded pair is protected. No authority in the Federation can separate them. No power in the galaxy can break their bond. Yuna closed her eyes. Relief flooded through her like warm water. They had done it. They had proven the bond. They were safe. The cub looked up at her with his golden eyes. He was exhausted, weak from the test, but he was smiling. I told you, he said softly. I told you we would be okay. Yuna laughed through her tears. Yes, you did. You were right. I am always right, the cub said. His eyes were closing, sleep pulling him down. I am very smart. Yes, you are, Yuna agreed. The smartest. The cub smiled one more time. Then he fell asleep in her arms. Safe and warm and home. The next few hours passed in a blur of official procedures and formal meetings. Yuna sat in a comfortable chair in Commander Voss's office, the cub sleeping peacefully in her lap. Taiho Park sat beside her, speaking on her behalf when she was too tired to speak for herself. The Federation had rules about everything. There were forms to fill out, statements to record, documents to sign. Yuna answered questions and provided information until her head hurt. But through it all, she kept one hand on the cub's sleeping body. She drew strength from his warmth. Elder Mira was there too, speaking with the Federation officials about Falari customs and laws. She explained that the imprint bond was the most sacred thing in Falari culture. A bonded pair was considered one being in two bodies. To harm one was to harm the other. To honor one was to honor both. This has never happened before, Elder Mira said at one point. A Falari imprinting on a non-Falari. Many believed it was not possible, but the evidence is clear. The bond is real. We must accept this truth and adjust our understanding. Commander Voss listened to everything with his cold yellow eyes. When all the statements had been given and all the questions had been asked, he leaned back in his chair and was silent for a long moment. Human, he finally said, looking at Yuna. You broke the law. You smuggled a protected species through Federation space. By our rules, you should be punished. Yuna's heart tightened. Beside her, Taiho Park started to speak, but Commander Voss held up his hand. However, the commander continued, the ancient laws are clear. A bonded pair cannot be separated. To punish you would be to punish the cub. To imprison you would be to imprison him. I cannot do that. He paused, his eyes moving to the sleeping cub. I have served the Federation for over 100 years, Commander Voss said slowly. I have seen many things. I have learned that laws are not always just. Sometimes following the rules means doing wrong. Sometimes breaking the rules means doing right. He looked back at Yuna. You saved this cub's life. You gave him love and care when he had nothing. You risked everything to keep him safe. These are not the actions of a criminal. These are the actions of a good person. Yuna did not know what to say. She had expected punishment. She had expected anger. She had not expected this. Therefore, Commander Voss declared, I am using my authority as station commander to drop all charges against you. You are free to go. Relief crashed over Yuna like a wave. She felt tears forming in her eyes again. Beside her, Taiho Park smiled and put a hand on her shoulder. Thank you, Yuna managed to say. Thank you so much. Commander Voss nodded once, a sharp military movement. Do not thank me yet. There is more. He pressed a button on his desk. A screen lit up, showing official Federation documents. The Falari Council has been contacted, he said. They have reviewed the case. They have made a decision. Elder Mira stepped forward. Her silver fur shimmered in the light. Her pale blue eyes were gentle and kind. Unikim, she said formally, the Falari Council recognizes your bond with the cub known as... She paused and looked at Yuna. Does he have a name? Yuna blinked. In all the chaos, in all the fear and worry, she had never given him a proper name. She had called him Little One and Sweet Thing and My Dear, but never a name. The cub stirred in her lap. His golden eyes opened, still heavy with sleep. A name? He asked softly. Yuna looked down at him. Her heart was full of love, full of gratitude. She thought about everything they had been through. The cold nights on Station Orion 7, the long journey to this checkpoint, the tests that had proven their bond. Through all of it, he had been bright and brave and warm. Hanul, she said, the Korean word for sky. Your name is Hanul. The cub, Hanul, smiled. I like it, Hanul. It sounds pretty. Elder Mira smiled too. Hanul, a beautiful name. The Falari Council recognizes your bond with Hanul. From this day forward, you are considered family under Falari law. You have the same rights and protections as any Falari citizen. No one may harm you or separate you. This is our promise. She reached into her robes and pulled out a small object. It was a pendant made of crystal, carved in the shape of two figures holding hands. She placed it in Yuna's palm. This is the symbol of a bonded pair, Elder Mira explained. Wear it always. It will show the galaxy that you belong to each other. Yuna looked at the pendant. It was beautiful, catching the light and throwing small rainbows across her fingers. She felt a warm glow in her chest. Thank you, she said to Elder Mira. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for accepting us. Elder Mira's eyes were soft with emotion. It is we who should thank you. You have shown us something new. You have proven that love knows no boundaries, no species, no rules. You have taught us that the heart wants what it wants and nothing can stop it. She looked at Hanul, who was now fully awake and watching everything with curious golden eyes. Take care of each other, Elder Mira said. That is all we ask. We will, Hanul said firmly. I will protect her. I will always protect her. Yuna hugged him close. And I will always protect you. Taiho Park helped them with the final paperwork. He made sure all their documents were in order. He made sure they had safe passage to Hana Colony. He even gave Yuna his contact information, telling her to call if she ever needed help. You did a brave thing, he said as they walked toward the departure gates. Many people would have left that cub to die. You chose differently. That says something about you. I could not leave him, Yuna said simply. When I looked into his eyes, I knew. I just knew. Taiho Park nodded. That is what makes humans special. We feel things deeply. We make choices with our hearts. Sometimes those choices seem foolish to others, but often they are the right choices. They reached the gate. Beyond it was the ship that would take them to Hana Colony, to their new life, to their new home. Yuna turned to Taiho Park one last time. Will we see you again? Perhaps, he said with a smile. The galaxy is big, but it is also small. Our paths may cross again. He bowed respectfully to Hanul. Take care of your person, little one. I will, Hanul said seriously. She is my person. I will never let anything bad happen to her. Yuna and Hanul boarded the ship. They found their seats by a window. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly in every direction. Somewhere out there was Hana Colony. Somewhere out there was their future. As the ship lifted off, Hanul pressed his face against the window, watching the space station grow smaller and smaller. We did it, he said quietly. We are free. Yuna put her arm around him. Yes, we did. We are free. Hanul looked up at her. His golden eyes were shining. Do you think people on Hana Colony will accept us? He asked. A human and a Filari together? Will they understand? Yuna thought about the question. She thought about all the beings they had met today. The cold officer Krell, who had tried to take Hanul away. The strict Commander Voss, who had listened to reason. The kind Elder Mira, who had welcomed them into Filari family. The helpful Taiho Park, who had stood by their side. Some will, she said honestly. Some will not. But that is okay. We have each other. That is all that matters. Hanul nodded slowly. Then he curled up against her side, his golden fur warm and soft. I am glad I found you, he said. I am glad you found me. I am glad we are together. Yuna stroked his fur gently. Me too, Hanul. Me too. Outside the window, the stars shone bright. They seemed to dance, welcoming the pair to their new journey. A human woman and her Filari cub, bonded by love, protected by ancient laws, facing the future together. It was a strange pair, Yuna thought, a human and an alien, connected in a way that no one had thought possible. But strange did not mean wrong. Strange just meant new, different, special, and maybe that was what humans brought to the galaxy, not strength or technology or power, but the ability to love without limits, the courage to care without conditions, the faith to believe that everything would be okay, even when nothing made sense. Hanul fell asleep against her, purring softly. Yuna held him close and watched the stars slip by. She did not know what the future would bring. She did not know what challenges they would face. But she knew one thing for certain. They would face everything together, and together they could handle anything the galaxy threw at them. The ship flew on, carrying its passengers toward Hana Colony, toward home, toward forever, a human and her cub, a person and her Filari, a family, together.